Hello, welcome to Simple Life Philosophy. I'm your host, Ed Ray B. This is the channel which attempts to create a philosophy of life that is both simple to understand and simple to execute. Um, in that, we often look at different kinds of philosophies such as Stoicism, Essentialism, Minimalism, some pagan philosophical elements, and more importantly, we try to figure out ways to apply them very specifically to our lives. I'm just your host. Part of this is me on a journey trying to discover my own personal life philosophy and continuing to develop and grow it. And I'm just taking you along, and you're certainly welcome to help me out, and I'll help you out along the way. Today, as indicated by the title, I'm finally breaking down the book How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. You don't say the G, I guess. And I'm hitting with chapter 1, which is the unstraightforward path, is what he calls it. And all I'm really going to do here is I'm going to hit some various highlights, things that stuck out to me, things that struck me, things that resonated with me. I encourage you, of course, to go buy the book, read the chapter for yourself, because there might be different elements of the chapter that will resonate with you better than they resonate with me. So, everybody reads a book a little bit different with a different perspective, so it's important that everybody kind of reads it for themselves. I'm just going to talk about what resonated with me. And I'm going to do that pretty much with every chapter. I have about 3 things I want to talk about. Today, first of all, I want to start off with the first thing that struck me about this is how Massimo's path to Stoicism was truly and genuinely unstraightforward. He had a lot of life events, like the death of his, mother and father. He had a lot of things in his own personal career. He had a divorce to deal with. He was coming to the end of a lot of things, and he was trying to start a new beginning. And as he began to study, the various philosophical trends in his area, he ran into Epictetus, of course, and started to read him, and pretty much Epictetus has become his favorite Stoic philosopher, and I find that very interesting. So he kind of, part of it was his own personal experience, part of it was his own study. For me, very similar. In fact, this is the part where I resonated with the author very, very much, because it was like, yeah, that's kind of my experience with coming into Stoicism, and a lot of the philosophical ideas that I follow is mostly I just kind of ran into them, and later on I kind of study them, I began to look at them, and I suddenly realized, hey, this resonates with me, I want to pursue it further, and then kind of put it into practice. So that was kind of point number 1. The other thing that he kind of brings out, the second thing he brings out that I found very interesting, is that Stoicism has this ability to connect with so many different philosophical systems. You don't have to be religious to connect with Stoicism, but you can also be religious and connect with Stoicism. Many of the other philosophies of life connect very well with Stoicism. This is one of the things that I noted with it as I was beginning to first learn about it, is, wow, this really connects with my essentialism, this really connects with my minimalism, this connects with a lot of my practical pagan philosophies and my idea of virtue and character development. Stoicism is all about developing virtue and character and being very practical about it. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So you have that kind of dichotomy of on the one hand, he found it in a very interesting way, but it's not really surprising, because there's so many interconnections between Stoicism and other philosophies and various religions. I mean, there's definitely elements in Christianity of Stoicism. There's definitely elements like in Buddhism, as well as Confucianism and several others around the world. Most religions can probably find a way to tie into Stoic philosophy in some way, shape, or form. Or if you're an atheist like myself, it just kind of ties into that, trying to find the best philosophy of life to live by. And that's kind of what I'm aiming for my own self personally, to find this simple, direct philosophy that is very beneficial to myself and the people around me as I live it. So, he really brought that out of all the interconnection. And the other thing that comes with that is, I think I've mentioned before that I don't really want to be known for my atheism, and I want to still be able to dialogue about certain elements of life with other, people, that doesn't necessarily share my atheism. I don't think atheism needs to be my defining thing anymore. So that's it kind of helped me there as well. The last thing I thought was very interesting was he very early on tries to, show how what most people's conception of Stoicism is not proper. It's not correct. Like it's like page 2, he says, he used an example that caught my attention being a Star Trek fan. But he says, Gene Roddenberry kind of used Stoicism as his basis for the character Spock in the original series, and the whole idea of the Vulcans and a society based on pure logic, having that Stoic, no emotions, purely based on reason kind of philosophy. And he says, the problem is when you read the Stoic writers, they don't talk that way at all. In fact, it's more about, acknowledging that you have emotions and then reflecting on those emotions to see where they're coming from, what causes them, and then redirecting those emotions so that they provide good for you and for the people around you and for society as a whole. It's not a denial of emotions. It's not a telling you to suppress your emotions. It is more a way of dealing with your emotions that's much more constructive. Acknowledge you have these emotions, figure out what causes them and what you can do with them to make them more beneficial. This resonated with me because, I've had several conversations. I've talked about, the fact that I do have a therapist. And one of the things we deal with me is I have an incredibly difficult time sharing my emotions, even with family members. Emotions to me are just difficult to express. I have a real trouble expressing them, and I really have a real hard time just even describing them or describing how I feel. And so she's been kind of teaching me, you can express your emotions in metaphors and things like that, and I'm trying to learn how to do that better. So with that comes this understanding, of learning how to acknowledge my emotions and learning what causes them, how to describe them, and how to redirect them and how to express them in constructive manners. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, you're trying to follow Stoicism, that's going to strip you of your emotions even further. You're really not going to want to share your emotions. But that's not what Stoicism really teaches. It teaches us we're human beings and we have these emotions, but why do we have them? Why do they exist? What's causing them? And how do I redirect them in a positive way? And to me, it resonated with me because I'm like, this could be a very practical tool for me to figure out how to express my emotions effectively and then bring them about into some more effective solutions for myself. I really do need to learn to express my emotions because I always have this attitude, well, how I feel is not really as important as other people, how they feel. And it's led to, 20 years in the ministry and that self-sacrificing attitude and, just starting to build relationships with new people and then have them walk out of the church. It really kind of reinforces this idea of tightening up my grip on my emotions. And some would say, well, Stoicism's not going to help you there. But in truth, I think it's probably the most helpful thing I could have run into because now I have this overall arching philosophy that says, hey, you need to learn to acknowledge your emotions, describe them, figure out what's causing them, and find ways of expressing them that is positive and constructive and leads to better, virtue and better character. And so this really did resonate with me, and I thought, man, this is awesome. So it's kind of really helping me out. And so, and it's this chapter, I was really glad that he wrote this chapter because one of the things that I deal with whenever I'm reading an author is I want to know where they're coming from. And this chapter was really good at telling me where the author is coming from, telling me what path he's been on, where he's at, and how he came into this and why he has in a sense the authority to talk about it. And I like books like this where I'm not being talked down to, being talked with as if I'm on the path with the author, and the author is just saying, this is what I've discovered, here's what can help you. And I really, really like that. So this is kind of where I'm at with chapter 1. Those are the kind of the highlights, the almost unstraightforward path that we always seem to have with philosophy, how Stoicism connects, and how it really is an effective way of dealing with emotions. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being effective with our emotions. And I found that really, really helpful and very interesting. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you listening to me, and if you have any more comments or insight, they are always greatly appreciated, so please feel free to comment on this video. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, you get your notification bells hit. All of these things help the channel as we continue to try to grow and become a bigger community. I just appreciate everybody's effort. What's going to make this channel work is you, and I am fully appreciative of that. So thank you once again. And this, once again, has been Simple Life Philosophy. I'm your host, Ed Raby. And, get out there, live your philosophy, and I hope you have a great day.